All right, kiddies, gather around, and Drive Home Reviews will tell you a tale. It is a tale from the before time, in the long, long ago. Back before the internet was an essential tool for survival. Back before distance learning or social media, when streaming and wireless were but the feeble dreams of a madman. Back when dial-up connections roamed the earth. Back before every pompous blowhard with time to kill and a camera could start a YouTube channel to bitch and bring you their uninformed opinions on everything from politics to music to video games to movies. Huh. Okay then. But the point remains valid. What I'm trying to get at is that once upon a time, the internet was this weird thing that just kind of existed. And nobody was really sure what to do with it. I mean, some people were, but the rest of us kind of, poked it and prodded it. We weren't sure of it. The things that we can do online today seemed but mad visions of the future back then. I mean, even take your social media. The idea that you could be friends with someone you had never actually met. That you could form an entire relationship online. And sometimes even a romantic relationship. This was seen as taboo. And oh my God, did you hear that? Well, that person you met online is probably an axe murderer. Keep in mind, they said the same thing when personal ads came out in the 70s. But it was this bizarre new thing, and when you did it, and moreover, when you told people you did it, it was a stigma attached to it. I mean, these days, I have friends on my social media platforms I have never been in the same state as, let alone the same room. But back then, it was crazy. And in this unexplored world of not just the internet, but internet culture and internet meetups, internet relationships, came today's film, 1998's You've Got Mail. Now, I'm bending the rules again with You've Got Mail. Because technically, I don't believe You've Got Mail is a forgotten gem. I don't think anyone has forgotten about this movie. What I do think is it is underappreciated. It has the distinction of having to be the sophomore outing for a well-received film. This happened a lot in the 90s. I don't know if it happens as much now. I'm trying to think of an example, and I can't really think of one. But when a male and a female performer, especially in a romantic comedy, did something and people really liked it, well, they wanted to see that pairing again. Very much in the Nick and Norah Charles kind of way. Those two actors were so good and their chemistry was so great, people just wanted to see them in more and more movies. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, they were, everybody loved Pretty Woman, so they tried to put them in other comedies with less success. And this is the sophomore outing for Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, and director and writer Nora Ephron, coming off of the success of Sleepless in Seattle. Why I like talking about this movie is because I take the unpopular stance that I think this is actually a better movie than Sleepless in Seattle. I think Sleepless in Seattle is 50% a good movie. I think all the scenes with Tom Hanks and his son are phenomenal. But even stripping away the romantic comedy tropes and the willing suspension of disbelief, the fact that someone is willing to throw their entire life away to run off to meet someone they have never, actually had any kind of interaction with is pushing that envelope a bit far for my taste. At least in this film, they actually meet and form a relationship outside of the internet. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's backtrack and talk about what this movie is about. So if you haven't heard of it or you don't know, so this film is actually the second remake of a film. I think there might have actually been another one now that I think about it. But this story exactly has been done before. Originally a film called Shop Around the Corner, starring Jimmy Stewart. It was then a musical called In the Good Old Summertime with Judy Garland. And this is now the third incarnation, set in the late 90s, where Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan meet in a chat room and become, friends online. They don't share information. They don't know each other's names. They just know the basics and go from there. Now, where the drama comes in is that in real life, Meg Ryan owns a children's bookstore called Shop Around the Corner. You see what they did there? And Tom Hanks is part of a family that owns a super chain of mega bookstores, very much in the vein of a Barnes & Noble or a Borders, that is opening in the same neighborhood as Meg Ryan's little children's bookshop, and he is basically putting her out of business. So they meet, they have the classic love-hate relationship. Meanwhile, online, they are talking to each other and falling in love online, but hating each other in real life. And it's also very goofy and charming and whatnot. So that's the basic story. So why do I like this movie more than Sleepless in Seattle? Well, again, first of all, they actually meet. They are actually able to form a full relationship, as opposed to Sleepless in Seattle falling in love with the idea of someone. Whereas here, Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks actually get to show that they do have good chemistry. They had been together before that in Joe versus the Volcano, which I think is just an awful movie, but I know some people remember fondly. But they showed they had chemistry there. And I gotta say, rewatching this, you know what I really miss? There's a lot of things I miss from the 90s, but you know what I miss? God, I miss funny Tom Hanks. I bet a lot of you didn't even remember that or didn't even know that when he started his career, he was a comedian. He was in comedies. He was known as a comic actor. Dragnet, Burbs, Big, and he is really, really funny. He just has really great comic timing. And I'm really happy that he's become the A-lister he was always meant to be. I love Philadelphia. Forrest Gump's a great movie. The things that he's done and the projects that he's been in since, wonderful. But God, sometimes I just miss funny Tom Hanks. He is so good in this. And he's playing a character a little bit outside of his normal bailiwick. He's playing a little bit more, I don't know what the right word is. He's not the goody two-shoe Jimmy Stewart, oh golly gee, kind of character. He's a little bit more cynical. He's a little bit more jaded. He's a little bit more of a jerk at times. And seeing Tom Hanks play a jerk is bizarre. It doesn't feel right. But he's playing it very well. I will say there are a couple times in this movie, just looks he gives or something he does that comes off a little creepy. There's a great video on YouTube of someone recutting the trailer for this to be a horror movie, and it's scary how easily it fits and how scary you could see that and go, yeah, that looks like a horror movie. But he's still got his natural Tom Hanks charm. And that is what carries us through the movie, in my opinion. He's the character that has the real character arc. Meg Ryan's character has an arc, but I feel like it's a smaller one. Her arc being more that as much as she loves the job that she's doing, and she loves, it was her mother's shot before hers. So as much as she loves that, she still feels like she's not living her life, or she's not living a big enough life. So through the friendship, she kind of, and of course the added complication of her store being attacked, she kind of gets the gumption and the confidence to go out and fight back. And then when that fails, she has the gumption to kind of go on. But I don't know, I don't feel like her arc is really as complete as Tom Hanks's arc. You get to see, I think, a lot more of him coming down off of the kind of snotty pedestal that he's kind of put himself on, and I don't know, interact with other people. You get the feeling he's very closed off, and he kind of surrounds himself with a certain type of person in his social circles, and he kind of comes down. He becomes a better person, and Meg Ryan's character does too, but I don't think to the extent that Tom Hanks's character does. That's okay, because it's weird in a romantic comedy for the male to kind of be the one who has the big change, other than going from I'm a sarcastic jerk to I love you. My two favorite things are commitment and improving myself. With him, it's a much more consistent arc, and I think it plays very well. I think the interplay between their two relationships is fantastic. And I think it understood something about the internet and about the freedom of the internet that I don't think we even understand now, and why it's easy for people to fall in love on the internet. It's because, in my opinion, it's because you're not putting on the show. Everybody, when you're out in public, I think, whether we mean to or not, there's a face we put on. Especially when you're courting, when you're dating. You're trying to make a connection. You're always worried about saying the right thing or saying the wrong thing. You're going to look stupid. But there's something about the freedom of that keyboard where you can kind of let the stuff that you feel out, and you don't feel as foolish. So even though it is not anywhere near as ridiculous for people to find their one true love online today, I think this movie taps in as to why that is a viable option, because you have these two people, and they are two separate people when they're in real life and interacting with people in their real life, and different people when they're communicating online without any kind of filter. And I think the film does a great job of kind of explaining this is why this would work for somebody. Just in some of the neat observations, Meg Ryan has a really great line at the beginning of how much she loves how much they love New York, and Tom Hanks says, he loves fall in New York. It always makes him want to buy school supplies, and he'd send her a bouquet of freshly sharpened pencils. It's little things like that. The exchanging of books, the exchanging of movies. All the things that you thought you could only do in real life, but you have to go through all of the pickup lines first. I will also say this. Now, I'm going to make some generalizations here, so please understand. I've never lived in New York, so I can't say. I know a lot of people who do live in New York, and they love it. But I gotta just say, as a moviegoer, I get so sick of movies that just do nothing but talk about how great New York is. Really get sick of it. So I kind of have a little bit of an aversion to New York. I also just don't like cities in general. But at least not big, cramped-in cities. But I will say this. This film does do that, does the whole I love New York is the great kind of thing. But the way it's shot, it really does create a very warm, very inviting view of the city. It's beautifully shot. The interiors, like of her bookstore, the coffee shop where they are supposed to meet, that very warm. There's a comforting vibe to them. It's interesting this is not neither here nor there, just kind of something that I just kind of noticed watching it yesterday, is that it's interesting how a film that is topical at the time can become dated, 20 some years or however many years later. Because at the time, I remember, the reason I remember is we were just about to get a Barnes & Noble in Alaska, in Anchorage. I don't remember if this came out right before or right after, but it was somewhere. The Barnes & Noble was still fairly new, if I remember correctly. And people were making the same arguments. Oh my God, this bookstore's going to put all the small bookstores out of business and yada, yada, yada. It was a big discussion. The Walmart argument, it was a big discussion at the time. Now, ironically, a lot of those stores have themselves been put out of business by the fucking internet. So, again, this is neither here nor there. It's just one of those things you watch, and along with things like the dial-up and the actual saying "you've got mail," it is just kind of one of those wonderful little hallmarks of the 90s in there. Fun supporting cast in this one too. There's a lot of names. Dave Chappelle is in this. Dave Chappelle and Tom Hanks had great comic chemistry together, to the extent that I kind of wish they had done another movie together. They really played off each other very well. Of course, when the film opens, both Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan are already in a relationship. Meg Ryan is in a relationship with the very pompous Craig Kinnear, and Tom Hanks with Parker Posey, who is just so extra, because that's what Parker Posey does. I love Parker Posey. I really do. I think she's hysterical. And she is so extra in just everything she's in. And she is really taking it the yuppie, the snobby, cutthroat yuppie in this. She's just really good. And Craig Kinnear is good as the pompous writer boyfriend of Meg Ryan. So much so that, and I like that when it eventually comes time for those relationships to end, it's not in the typical kind of way that these do. It's not a Meg Ryan, Bill Pullman situation. You know right away these two couples are not meant for each other. That they just don't work, and I think our characters know that too. And that's why they're allowing themselves to have that relationship online, because they know the one they have in real life just isn't working anymore. So they're finding what they don't have in each other. I wouldn't say this isn't a laugh out loud comedy. It's not like Forget Paris, which has the quieter vocal bits and the really laugh out loud hilarious bits. This one is much more grounded, and it works. It works for it. I will also say it does have one of the more, I don't know if I'd say it's the most romantic line, but I will say it has a really great romantic line in it there towards the end, when he's giving her the kind of "I love you," but he's not saying that out loud speech, and saying, I'd ask you to coffee and then dinner and then a movie and then for as long as we both shall live. I don't know. It's a good line, and Tom Hanks' delivery of it is perfect. And you can just see, okay, this is how these people who hate each other could actually fall in love. Because they do have the much ado about nothing thing going on, where in real life they hate each other and they're bitter enemies, but he finds out who she is and it becomes a whole thing. So yeah, it's not exactly laugh out loud funny, but it is, I don't know, it's warm. It's a very warm movie. It is kind of like, I don't know, a spring day. Is this movie perfect? No. And I'm going to be a little mean here, and I really don't mean to be, but I think I kind of have to be. I think where this movie falls down is Meg Ryan. Now, Meg Ryan is a good actor. She has proven that. She is a good actor. But the problem is like so many other actors before her, she got put in a type. And I don't even know what to call this type. It's not a manic pixie dream girl, but it's a close relative of the manic pixie dream girl. That neurotic, older. I'm so cute. Oh my God. I'm charmingly befuddled. I'm just so meek and cute. I'm gonna fight. And she is forcing it so much. She is really overplaying the character. And I don't know I think part of that may be the writing. I think the character is written just a little too young. But yeah, she does. Yeah, just everything. Her fashion choices, everything. I would expect this character. You're gonna go meet the guy of your dreams. It's a spring day. Yellows. Blues. She's wearing like this dark blue, kind of almost gray outfit. It's very drab. But yeah, and again, she's a good actor and she holds her own in this. There's a great scene after her store closes where she finally goes into the superstore and she walks around and she sits down in the children's section, and this woman is looking for a children's book that the clerk doesn't know how to find, and Meg Ryan jumps in and kind of says it's this and this, and she's saying it and she's crying, and she says it's a good scene and good and very well acted. So Meg Ryan can act. This is not me saying she's a terrible actor. It's me saying I think she is trying way the fuck too hard. And maybe that's just exasperated by the fact that she's in there with Tom Hanks, who makes his acting always look so fucking effortlessness. Effortless. It's been in isolation for a long time. I don't talk to a lot of people. Effortless. He makes his acting look so effortless. So yeah, I gotta say, I think almost anyone else, oddly enough, I think Sally Field could have played this role better than Meg Ryan. I think this would have been a great role for Sally Field. She might have been a little too old at the time, but still, I think it could have worked. Or someone Sally Field like. But Meg Ryan, I don't know. She pushed the neurotic, cute thing too far, and now it just feels like an act she puts on. She feels like a wrestler, coming out with their overblown character. So that's my big problem with this movie. But again, she is a good actor. Her scenes with Tom Hanks are very good. They have a natural chemistry, and you can really see the evolution of the relationship from I hate you to I love you, and it feels natural and logical. And that's something a lot of movies don't take the time to be. I think this one, again, because it wasn't Sleepless in Seattle, but I think a lot of people really wrote this one off. It's still, I heard some show call it the worst of their comedies, and I disagree with that very strongly. I think it's a pretty good comedy. I think it's a very good romantic comedy. Oh, you know what? I remembered. Because I had a metaphor for this. Meg Ryan's character, backtracking a little bit, I got to dump on Meg Ryan some more, comes off more like a kindergarten teacher who has never worked with children before. And so they're trying way too hard. Hey, kids! Okay, let's all make duckies! Or that kind of thing. Anyway, I'm sorry, but that was a really great metaphor, and I remembered I wanted to put that in, and I just forgot. This is why I should write some of these down, but then I'd be reading while I'm driving. Anywho, sorry. Back to wrapping up. I still think this is a very charming little movie. I think it's a wonderful time capsule of the late 90s and the early stages of the internet and internet culture. And it, like I say, it's very warm. It's a warm, comfortable sweater. So I say, pull this one out, snuggle up with the one you love more than anyone else, and give this one another try. And I don't think you'll regret it. At least I hope you don't. So that's my opinion on You've Got Mail. A little disjointed, this review. It's kind of all over the place. Sorry about that, but whatever. Anywho, hope you're all doing well. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And please join us next time. And as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.